the two of them together was what really pushed me over the edge, I think. It's what freaked me out enough to walk inside like a zombie and grab a letter opener and climb into a wardrobe. Just that sense of being prey, being a rabbit.
Yeah, you're not used to that feeling. You're used to being on the top of the food chain. All of a sudden you go out back late that night and find out that you're not on the top. You're a peg or two down. So that's only natural that you're going to feel that way. No one can blame you for that. Well, Kieran, at this point, it's about time to wrap the show up. Do you have any closing comments you'd like to make?
Not that I can think of.
That's all right. That's no problem at all. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing the details of your encounter with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me, mate.
Oh, anytime. It's been great talking with you. Please don't be a stranger, okay?
No problem.
I really appreciate it. Well, have yourself a great night.
You have yourself a great night. It's daytime here, so I've got to go do some housework now.
Well, don't work too hard.
No, I'll try not to, mate.
That sounds good. Have a great night.
You too, mate.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. If you've had a Dogman encounter and you want to speak with me, whether in private or on the show, you can reach me at contact@dogmanencounters.com. I'd love to hear from you.
Raised, covering its face, and I could see his eyes. But the whole time, I'm like processing this, and I'm like, oh my God, what is this? This. At first, I thought it was a wolf when it broke through the bushes, but I'm like, it was too big to be a wolf. And I'm looking at it, and it had longish, grayish hair, this huge chest. I could not take my eyes off the chest. The chest was muscular. It had like patches where down as the fur went lower, it was more sparse, and you could see the definition of the muscles. It was very well defined, and you could see the skin underneath was grayish black, almost leathery looking, almost like ape skin. But what really blew me away was, as I'm watching this, I was like shocked, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a werewolf. How could there be werewolves in Rochester? This doesn't make any sense. I'm just looking at this thing, and it's looking at me, and I wasn't scared. I was more like in shock because I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and I rubbed my eyes. I'm thinking, oh my God, I must have worked too many hours. I'm seeing things now. And so, and this thing is still there looking at me with hiding its face because the high beams are like blocking it. And then I saw its eyes, and its eyes were almost human-like. There was this intellect. They were like this brownish, amberish color. They were really big, but what was amazing was that there was this intellect behind those eyes, and it was like it was scoping me out, and it was almost like it could see right through me. This is weird, but it almost seemed to have like a sense of humor and intelligence the way it was looking at me, and I felt like it found me amusing for some weird reason, and it was checking me out, and I'm looking at this, and I'm still thinking about the chest that I just saw, and I'm thinking to myself, what is a werewolf doing in Rochester? And I'm still looking, and all of a sudden it like leaps up in the air and jumps over this field-stone fence like it was nothing, with this ninja stealth-like ability where it looked like it was almost floating. And that's when I noticed its legs were weird. I'm like, how can something have a chest like a man, long arms, kind of like a man, but the bottom part was more like a dog, the thighs were muscular, but the bottom part was weird. They were kind of like almost bent backwards, and I was like, how did he do that? How did he bend his legs like that? And the whole time I'm just like checking this whole thing out, and being an ER person, we are trained to not react emotionally, to observe. So the whole time I'm like checking everything out, and I'm looking, and I'm like, I don't see any genitalia. Yeah, that's an ER nurse for you, you know, focus on that. and I'm like, what the heck? This thing had, you know, I couldn't tell if it was male or female, because I was trying to identify, you know, if it was male or female. What was this? I didn't see any breasts. Had longish hair. I remember the ears. It had these pointy ears that had like this little tuft on the end, almost like German Shepherd ears. And it had a brow bridge that kind of stuck out a little bit, and the eyes were a little deeper set. But the whole thing was covered in hair, just really nice longish hair like you would see in a husky or a German Shepherd. On the top chest, it was maybe 3 to 4 inches long. The hair on the top of the ears, it had like a little tuft of hair on the ears, which gave it almost like a grayish tip color. And anyway, so what do? I put my car in park, and I open my door, and I decide I am going to step out of the car and see what I just saw, because obviously I didn't see what I just saw. I must obviously be too tired from working or something and seeing things. So I'm going to verify to myself that I was seeing things, and I just need to go home and go to bed. I left my car door open. I walked over to the fieldstone fence, and that's when I realized that the fieldstone fence was pretty high, and this thing jumped over it by like huge length. It made it look like it was just stepping over a little ball or something. It was just leaped by a huge amount and made it look so graceful and easy. And I'm looking. I could see there was lights up in the golf course where you could see the trees and you could see shadows. And in the distance, there it was, standing up next to a tree, kind of with that one arm holding onto the tree, and it's rocking back and forth and back and forth. And it's looking at me, and I'm looking at it, and I'm still in a little bit of shock, and I'm like, oh my God, this thing is real. And all of a sudden, the thought occurred to me that this thing is real, this thing is huge, and this werewolf thing is by that tree looking at you. You better get in the car and get out of there, because if it wants you, it can have you, and you're not going to have a chance. So luckily, I was smart enough to still leave my car door open, and I ran into my car, and I locked my doors, and I drove away. And the whole time, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I saw a werewolf. I need to call the police. And then there's a part of me that says, you can't call the police. They're going to laugh at you. They weren't going to believe me. I know. I work with police officers all the time. I know their sense of humor. They would have laughed at me silly. But there was a part of me that was like, oh my God, there's this werewolf thing in the city. It looked like it was on the prowl for something. The way it was carrying food, I was thinking maybe it had gotten into the garbage at the country club and maybe was eating steak or something, because that time of the year there's a lot of parties and people throw out all kinds of steak and lobster and who knows what. So, hey, what better place for a dog, man, werewolf, whatever, to rummage than the country club, you know? So I'm driving home, and now I'm scared. And I'm driving, and I realize that all the way home there are woods. And if this thing wanted to follow me, it could follow me, because the way the city of Rochester is, there's 490, there's a thruway you can take, but all around us are lots of woods, there's the canal, there's creeks and rivers, there's lots of forests, like big woods, because a lot of the farms have these big woods between them, and the way the thruway has been built, there's like these forever wild stretches that goes all the way down. So anyway, I drove home, pretty fast. I wanted to get home. I was pretty scared, and it takes a lot to scare me. I mean, I'm a pretty tough cookie. I don't scare easy, and this was like the first time I think I've ever truly felt fear. It wasn't so much fear for me, but fear for what if this thing gets me? What's going to happen to my son? I've got to get home. And so I got home. I started researching and looking to see if there's been any reports of wolves in the area, of missing people in the area, of any unusual sightings, because when this thing was on all fours and it first broke through, it looked like a giant wolf. And I saw that in Canada there had been sightings of wolves and stuff, but when it stood up and it was in front of my car, this was not a wolf. It had a chest like a bodybuilder. The way its arms moved, no wolf could do that. And the way it leaped in the air and moved, and the way it was looking at me, that was not a wolf looking at me. I know my animals. I've been into drawing animals all my life. I love wolves. I know what wolves look like. I know what coyotes look like. It was not a coyote. It was not a wolf. Anyway, so I started doing research, and I'm looking, and I can't find anything. And then I remembered that I had a Facebook friend that knew about this stuff. He was into researching yowies. Dooligi man, I call him. He's part of special service, Secret Service technician type person, surveillance type person, and he does research with yowies where he goes out into the woods and tries to document and all this kind of stuff. So I knew he was the real thing. So and when I got home, of course everybody was asleep. I didn't want to wake anybody up. So, you know, I'm like, oh my God, who do I talk to? What do I do? I need to find out what this was. And so I sent him a message, and he says to me, Rose, my Phoenix Rose, you have seen a dog man. And I was like, what? That was a werewolf. And that's when I first found out about dog men.
I know I'm not the only one who almost dropped his popcorn when I heard you talk about, after seeing something that big that looked like a werewolf, the fact that you got out of the car and wanted to go take a closer look. I can't believe you did that. Don't you watch scary movies?
Actually, I don't.
Oh.
Because, but until recently, when I was watching the episode, my first horror movie. I had watched. What's that movie with? What's the movie with the werewolves?
Underworld.
And, yes, I had watched Underworld. This creature looked like something out of Underworld. That was. When I saw that movie, I was floored. I was like, oh my God, that's what I saw. That's the creature I saw. It looked just like that. It moved just like that. These huge giant creatures, and yeah, I know. That's what the stupid people always do. But I had to make sure that, like I said, I'm pretty fearless, and I had to make sure that I was not hallucinating something, because if it was, I was going to go back to the ER and say, okay, I need to go to CPAP. I'm obviously hallucinating. And when I saw that, no, that creature that you saw that had to be about 8 feet tall minimum, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but this thing had to be that big, because when it was in front of my car, all I saw was its chest and mid-area, which means that this creature was huge. I think I was just in shock. Who would think that you would see anything like this in a busy city?
They turn up in so many places where you would never expect to see them. It's just so hard to understand. I'm so glad that you had that Yowie researcher to talk to about your encounter. Someone that you could contact almost immediately to share the encounter with. It sounds like get a little bit of counseling from as well. If you hadn't known that man, then who knows how long it might have taken you to find someone that you could have reached to talk to this encounter about. So that's really good news. One thing I want to ask you about with regards to that encounter is, I know that you said it took you around 2 years to come out and openly talk about that encounter. What was the main reason why it took you so long to come out and talk about that encounter?
Well, I am a nurse, and being a professional, you have to be careful. You know, you're always in people's sight, and people aren't going to believe you when you tell them that you saw a dog man. I mean, a few of my friends I had talked to about Sasquatch and stuff, and I had told them about how we saw a Sasquatch once when we were coming back from a trip, and my son was a baby in the back seat. And they kind of testing the waters, you know, I'd be like, hey, have you ever heard of Bigfoot? And they would laugh, and they'd be like, oh, there's no such thing. If I had told anybody that I saw a dog man, a werewolf creature, they would have, like, thought I was nuts, and I didn't really want that. I tried to tell other people, like, through those internet sites when I tried to connect and see if they knew anything, and I was testing the waters, but I didn't feel like I could trust them. I didn't feel like they were going to be helpful in any way, and I saw how they tore other people apart, and I just didn't want to go through that. I didn't need to share it in that way. I know what I saw was real, and I had kind of pushed it out of the back of my mind because for a long time, even to this day, there's a part of me that gets very scared being in the woods. When I come home late at night, I get scared. The next day, after I had gotten home, something left a big black walnut in the rim of my car. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird. I kind of shook it off, and then it did that progressively a couple of times during that week, kind of to let me know, no, that wasn't an accident. And it's so weird, but I almost felt like it was letting me know, yeah, I know you're here, and I'm just letting you know that I'm here too. And I know that sounds crazy, but these things, there was an intelligence behind it that I think they could track anybody down. And given all the woods and stuff that we have everywhere, I'm not surprised that it would be around. And recently, driving, I found some different markers that kind of indicate that not only is the possibility that the dogman could be out closer to my home, but that there's also a Sasquatch in the area. That's made me a little nervous, but what made me come out and actually say that my experience was you, because you have created this very incredible site where people that have legitimately seen something can come in, tell you what they saw, and explain their story, and hopefully we can learn where they are, collaborate with the research, and try to figure out maybe their migration patterns, maybe be able to just make people more aware so that they're careful, because now thinking about it, you know, doing my photography and stuff with my son and myself, it's so easy to get lost, clicking away, changing lenses, and have one of these things be around and you not even know it. And, you know, missing 411, I discovered that, and I'm like, oh my God, are these people disappearing in the forest? And I bet you that that's part of the reason, because if these things want to get you, you would not have a chance. I mean, we are so fragile. I mean, you could have a giant shotgun, and I don't think it would have touched it. So, anyway, yeah, it's because I think that people like me who have had these experiences need to be able to come out and tell somebody what they saw, share it with other people, and hopefully create a network where we can be there for each other and help each other through this, because here I am 2 years later, and, you know, today when we were going to talk and stuff, I started thinking about everything, I became physically ill thinking about this creature, and it made me realize, wow, now here I am, a veteran seasoned nurse who's won all kinds of awards, dealt with all kinds of situations, raised in Long Island, New York City. I've traveled all over the world, and I'm not a sissy girl. If it affected me this way, how is it affecting other people out there? I mean, I even have a martial arts background, you know, and so I don't scare easy. I will stand up to the toughest big guy and look him right in the eye. But this thing, no, I would not have had a chance. It was so big, it could have thrown me over the shoulder and taken off, and there was nothing I could do. I could have had a big shotgun and shot it. I don't think it would have touched it.
Yeah, the whole shotgun thing has been tried before, and unfortunately the results were not very favorable, to say the least. You said several things that I want to touch upon here, Phoenix. With regards to the missing 411 comment, do you know of any missing persons cases in and around that area?
Well, you know, it's kind of interesting because that night when this thing was in town, I did notice in the paper that there was a prostitute that had disappeared in that area, a small lady. And there's always lots of missing people everywhere, but this is kind of a area where we've had a couple of serial killers because the gorges are, shot-crossed. So our gorges are such that I guess they were good for hiding bodies. Other than that, I don't have any specifics and stuff, but it made me realize that there are missing people all over, and there's photographers going out there just like me who are going out in the woods, and one minute they're there, the next minute they're gone. There's children that you'll be with them, and a few steps behind, these children are disappearing. And it's very scary because nobody knows what it is, but I will tell you this, if these dog men get hungry, they can easily snatch a kid, and that kid would not have a chance. They could easily steal women or men, and you would not have a chance. You could put the biggest, strongest guy, and he would not have a chance. Not after what I saw.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. Yeah, no one would stand a chance against one of these things, seemingly whether they were armed or not. It's not uncommon for an eyewitness to feel some form of guilt about how they either reacted to the encounter right away or how they reacted after the fact to the encounter, such as with prolonged problems with nightmares, PTSD, trouble going out into the woods when they think they shouldn't have any problem going out into the woods. Have you gone through any periods where you felt some form of guilt because of how you reacted to that encounter, such as you might feel like you overreacted, you felt more fear than you should have, or you are currently feeling more fear than you should be feeling?
Well, I felt guilty that I felt bad. I felt cowardly that I didn't call the police and tell them that there's an animal in the at the country club and they need to check it out because I was afraid they would laugh at me. And so there's a part of me that wishes that I'd had my camera and I could have gotten some actual pictures of this thing because I knew that it was going to be hard for anybody to ever believe me. And just I felt bad because I'm like, oh my God, there's a werewolf in Rochester, and it could like grab somebody, and I can't warn anybody. So yeah, I felt guilty about not being able to do that, and I wish that we had lived in more of an environment where I could have done that, and the police might have been more receptive to it. But maybe that, and yeah, I will never be able to sleep out in the woods by myself again. Even the thought of pitching a tent by myself with just my son has me really creeped out. And I was thinking, well, maybe I need to get a big dog and I can take it with me. But then I've been hearing stories that they don't really like the dogs either. So I'm not sure that's such a good idea. But on the other hand, I love nature, and I really don't plan on stopping mining for my crystals and gemstones, or doing my photography. But I'm a lot more careful now. Once it starts getting dark, it's like, okay, time to turn around and go back. So I guess that, and maybe what happened today where I thought, when you're an ER person, you were taught, okay, you're in a situation, step outside the box, handle the situation, and then after it's all done, then you can let it go, have your little pity party, brush it off, get over it, and go on to the next. And I'm really good at that. So I was able to basically push it off in the back and forget about it. But then, like today, last time when I tried to think about it, all of a sudden, my stomach started turning into a knot. I started to feel like I was going to throw up. And I just did not feel good. And it made me realize how, even though it was not a violent encounter, and even though I think this thing was more curious than anything, there was something about it that was very traumatizing in the sense that it felt dangerous, like it could harm people, it could eat people if it wanted to, and nobody would know because they're so good at hiding in the shadows. They move so fast that you could have one in your backyard and not even know it's hiding behind your shed.
That's true, and that's been done before. There was a young man, if I remember correctly, that was 6'8", 6'9", who went out to start his family's vehicles at a family get-together way out in the sticks. I can't remember if that was in Wisconsin or not, but he went out there to do that, and as he was putting the key into the lock on the first car's door, this dog man rose up from behind that car. And this dog man was so big, even though this young man was 6'8", 6'9", this dog man was looking down at him. Needless to say, he was not used to being looked down upon. That really shook him up, understandably. He started yelling out and heading back for the house, and as he did that, from what I understand, the dog man ran off. But yeah, not a very good scene at all. I want to share something with you with regards to your comment about how you feel maybe at least a little bit of regret about how you reacted and how you said you didn't get the word out like you wish you would have after that encounter. I really hope you don't second guess yourself. I hope you don't feel any regret whatsoever with how you reacted to that encounter. As you know, everyone's going to react differently to a traumatic encounter like that, Phoenix. And you did the best that you could. You dealt with it the best way you knew how. So there is no right way or wrong way to react. I hope you don't beat yourself up over how you did react to that. You handled it, like I said, the best way you knew how.
Well, thank you, yes. And that's, I guess, how you have to look at it, because at the time there was nothing I could do. I didn't have any of my photography equipment with me. My photography equipment's all professional equipment. It's very expensive, and I don't carry it with me when I go to work. I had a little cheap phone, and I did try to see if I could